Hey there, North fans. Welcome back to the Talking North podcast. What a win that was on Saturday against the Gold Coast Suns. A Cameron Zurhaar goal after the siren got us up by 6 points at Marvel Stadium. How good was that? I mean, wow, it's really hard to summarise, how myself and the entirety of the fan base is feeling after that result. But that was absolutely incredible, one of, the most memorable wins in my lifetime as a North Melbourne fan. And yeah, it really has put the belief back in myself and other fans. So good. Like, to see a North Melbourne player kick a goal after the siren to win it. First time since Alistair Clarkson in 1987. Just an incredible game to be at. I mean, only 13,000 people there, but man, that last 5 minutes, it felt like 50,000 at the G, and yeah, wow, it still feels surreal that we got that done. And as much as I want to talk about the second half and how good that end to the game was, we do gotta go through the first half to appreciate how we came back. So the start of the game wasn't great, really. I mean, it looked like we continued the form from the week prior against the Crows, and yeah, the Suns kicked the first 3 goals. We looked, sloppy, not using the ball very well, entering it pretty poorly inside 50. The umpiring early on was pretty poor against us, like it was all day, I reckon, but we weren't great to start the game at all, and it didn't help that the Suns were kicking insanely inaccurate, so accurately. Like, they had 7 goals, none to quarter time, and we were only down by 17. Like, we did our fair share of kicking goals ourselves in the first term, but just some costly errors in the first quarter. Comben gave away 2 free kicks, I believe. Just some silly stuff in the back line. So yeah, 17 points down at the first break. It wasn't a great start, but going into the second quarter, we probably still felt that we could claw our way back. But just like last week, the second quarter was our weakest. Fortunately, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as the Adelaide game. Suns kicked 5 goals, 3 to our 2 goals straight. They hit a game high lead of 42 with a Ned Moyle goal with around 8 minutes to go in the quarter. We brought it back to 38 by half time, but really going into the main break, 38 points down was, I thought it was game over, and I thought, Suns would just kick away and really get us, percentage booster on us, really. The issues were pretty evident in the first quarter. It was a centre clearance dominance from the Suns, and it was very clear that these new ruck rules aren't suiting Tristan Xerri, right? Witts and Moyle absolutely destroyed him at centre bounces. It looked as though Xerri wasn't even trying to jump at the middle. I'm not sure if it was tactical, so he would get the clearance, or if he was playing a bit sore, because it was very odd. He was not jumping at all, and Dawson was trying, but he looked like he was struggling. So yeah, they were absolutely killing us in centre clearances, and it led to so many goals. It was like, I think they got around 8 of their goals in the first half from centre bounces, which is an unheard of amount in one half of footy. So yeah, going into the third quarter, it was, not much hope from myself and many others, I'd assume, but we could see straight away at the first centre bounce of the third quarter that Clarko would flip the magnets, and it was essential, really. Trembath began rucking more in the middle, which we've seen this year that he's a great leaper at the ball, and that really helped in the middle because we actually had a ruck that was competing when it was at the centre bounce, and Tristan Xerri forward actually kind of wasn't too bad of a move at times because it brought us some height down there. But yeah, we started to actually really get into the game and clawed our way back. As well as Trembath in the ruck, we'd also flipped Zurhaar forward and put McKercher back, which I thought was another good move from Clarko as well. Comben, after a pretty poor first half where he let Jed Walter kick 3 goals and he gave away a few free kicks, he was so much better in the third quarter. It was very obvious. He clearly found something in his game and shrugged off some of those nerves that he probably had in the first half, and like he was so much better. And we ended up winning the third quarter 4-4 to 1-4. So we went into the last quarter down by 20, and there was a bit of belief, I think. Like the crowd started really getting into the game a little bit, and we did really think that we could win the game, and that is what is crucial going into a last quarter. I think this is where our mentality has shifted. We do think we can win games from that situation, and my God, that last quarter was absolutely mental. So Gold Coast early on were kind of sticking with us. It was goal for the first 4 or 5 goals, and they're up by like 27 points, I believe, with around I think it was like 15 minutes to go. They're up by 27, and when it was that margin, you think Gold Coast put the game to bed. I think they had a shot that they probably should have kicked to go up by 30 plus, and you'd think it'd be the game. But we started to lift, and Trembath really started to get into the game. He kicked one, Larky kicked one, and we're kind of chipping away a little bit, right? Dersma kicks one to cut it to 15, and it's like, yeah, wow, there's a game in this. The midfield really, really lifted in the last, and we kind of started to prevent a really strong Petrarca, Anderson, and Rao, who were running all over our midfielders all day, and particularly our youngsters, George Wardler and Finn O'Sullivan. They recorded 13 and 12 disposals respectively. George Wardler was extremely quiet in the first 3 quarters, only the 8 touches. But my God, that fourth quarter is the best footy I've seen him play. And a player that his best patches of footy have come in first halves before fading away. This was a complete opposite for him. And I think it shows credit to his fitness levels. And, he in the past, he's kind of lost it in the last because of, his ability to maintain it throughout a game, but he built up to that last quarter where he was just exceptional. And same with Finn O'Sullivan. Want to also mention Charlie Comben again, just incredible. Like he took that intercept mark to set up the play for the LDU goal, which leveled things up, which was an absolutely huge moment for a multitude of players. Zane Dersma's just composure to find LDU in that pocket of space was just such credit to how he's matured as a player and as a person. And I was just so happy to see Zane, and I have been all year to see him mature so much as a player. And yes, he was quiet in the first 3 quarters, but he really showed up when it mattered, with that, also with the goal earlier. So the last minute was just bonkers, like scores are level. We'd absolutely, come from the clouds, and when they got that centre clearance, I was absolutely shitting myself. Like, I was so nervous, but we bring the ball to ground, and I've seen footage throughout the week of when George Wardler at the centre clearance notices that Suns are going to get a clearance, and great pressure by, I think it was LDU, to put a tackle on Anderson to prevent his clearance from really going deep inside their 50. Wardlaw's run to the edge of our defensive 50 to get that handball receive, and his sharp kick into the middle to Parker was so bold, but it was absolutely perfect. And Parker just bombs it inside 50, which is what we'd been doing all game. But this entry was so good because we had Zurhaar isolated out with this. I can't remember who it was, but it was a young Suns player, and he clearly just absolutely panicked. He knew there wasn't much time on the clock, and the free kick was given. And yeah, Larky and Curtis played on, and thank God they didn't play that advantage because they actually missed the shot, didn't even score. So yeah, when Zurhaar's lining up 25 metres in front, the stadium is just absolutely erupting, and my God, I knew that I was about to witness, a goal after the siren for the win. I mean, all we needed was a score, but the celebration was happening before Zurhaar even slotted it. We knew he would score. And yeah, the moment he popped it right through the middle was, oh my God, one of the best North Melbourne moments I can think of. It's got to be right up there. And man, for a crowd of 13,000, it was so loud, and yeah, it just felt so nice to get over the line. And after such a tough week after the Adelaide game, we just to know that we'd finally gotten a scalp this year. Going into the game, the Suns are 4th on the ladder. Just to get that win is just so important. And I think I mentioned this in one of my videos. We've talked, in the past about the turning point. What's the win that's the turning point? There's been a few. There was Melbourne last year in round 2. We thought that was it. We kind of faded out for the rest of the season. Only won 4 more games. Carlton on Good Friday. We said this year might be the turning point. But as we've learned, Carlton aren't a very strong team. But this could be it. And I think, Suns obviously are shaky in Melbourne and after Darwin. But this is a different Suns team to the ones we've beaten in the past at Marvel. A top 4 team going into this game, and on paper, one of the best teams in the AFL, undeniably. And to get that scalp and to come back from 42 points down, the second biggest comeback in our history, that is the game that I think this could very, very possibly be the game that we look back at to say this is where it happened. And it takes us to 5 and 6 for the year. We have the same amount of wins as we did last year. Man, it's huge. It is huge for the club, what we did on Saturday afternoon, and it was such a pleasure to be there. And yeah, it is a really good club to support right now, and I couldn't be prouder of the team, and it is the perfect way to go into the bye. I mean, 5 and 6, really close to the wild card spot now. We've separated ourselves from the bottom 5, who, from Port and below, they've won 3 games or less. Then you go above Port, and it's us and the Giants with 5 wins. So we have a 2-win separation from the bottom 5, and I think we've clearly shown we are out of there. We are out of that bottom zone. And I know we've still got half a season to go, but I'm so confident that we are not going to finish in the bottom 5. And I really, really think we can push for a wild card spot. And after the bye, we genuinely have winnable games. We have Freo first up at Hands Oval. I don't think that's a winnable game. But we have West Coast, Richmond, Essendon 3 weeks in a row after the Fremantle game. If we can win those 3 games, we can go to 8 and 7 after 15 games, and we are genuinely going to push for a wild card spot this year. And I'm not even trying to get ahead of myself. This is a genuine possibility, and this is a huge possibility for our club to play in September again. So yeah, incredibly proud of the performance. So now I'm going to go through the positions. In the back line, it was a much better defensive performance than the previous game against Adelaide. I think to start off with, I'll mention Griffin Logue, a player that I've criticised in the past on this podcast and, in years gone past. That was one of his best games for the club. I'm happy to say that. He kept Ben King to 1 goal. That is a very impressive feat. The Coleman medalist, with the amount of centre clearances that the Suns got, keeping Ben King to 1 goal was an extremely impressive effort from Griffin Logue. And I think the free kick he got was from a goal, from a free kick from Comben. So really, Logue won every single contest against Ben King, and that is huge from him. And again, as a player I've criticised in the past, I've got to give him his credit and say fair play. I love being proven wrong by players. It is my favourite thing. Luke McDonald was pretty solid. I think he and the other smaller defenders did a pretty good job on the likes of Leo Lombard and Bailey Humphries. don't think either of them kicked a goal, so that I think McDonald was good, and he was reliable all day. I don't think he made any costly turnovers, and I think he was pretty solid in his one-on-ones. So it was a good performance from McDonald. Caleb Daniel, good again. I got to say, he's had a much better season. Another player I've criticised a lot early, even before the season started. I said I think he will lose his spot this year. He's nowhere near losing his spot. Like, he's very, very solidified in our back line, and I think his ball use is getting better. I think that's it. It's helped by Parker being back there, but his ball use is getting better. His defensive work's getting better. He looks calmer back there, and I think now that he's been at the club for over a year, I think he's really comfortable in the environment, and I'm happy to see him do well. And he was good. The McKercher Zurhaar, they both played. So Zurhaar was in the back line in the first half. McKercher was in the back line in the second. I actually thought Zurhaar was one of our best players in the first half as a defender. I think he stood up really well in contest. His kicking inside 50 from the back line was good. I thought he was really solid. What he did in the forward line obviously had more impact in the end, but I think his work in the forward line and the back line was quite good. And then McKercher moving back was good as well. I think his rebounding off halfback was really important for us, and it was just that move from Clarko was genius. But I think they both did well when they're in the back line. Luke Parker, definitely not his best game, admittedly, but he showed up when it mattered, and that's all we can ask for. His goal assist for the Zurhaar game winner was crucial, and I think his no-nonsense attitude when it comes to defending is so important, and he brings so much confidence to the likes around him. He's such an experienced player. He knows how to win, and I think he's just so crucial in that back line. Wasn't his best performance, but he still did the job, and yeah, well done, Parks. Riley Hardiman back on return. Really, really happy to see this guy back. I think him coming in for Tom Blamires was a good decision. He's got more defensive reliability. I actually think he's a better kick than Blamires is a good kick, but for sure. But Hardiman's penetration off halfback is crucial for us, and he only got 8 disposals, which I was really surprised by. But I think he was used as the handball receive multiple times, and he got us out of tricky situations in the back line. So, great performance from him. Well done. Now onto the midfield. To start off with, I think this guy was our best player, Jai Simpkin. My God, he was so good. Leading into the game, he put on his Instagram story that he was wearing boots dedicated to former North Melbourne player Phoenix Spicer, who tragically passed away at the start of this year, and it felt like that really lifted him in this game. And in being Sir Doug Nicholls round, one of our Indigenous players, Jai Simpkin, it was incredible to see his performance, and he got the most votes from the coaches, and rightly so. My God, his first half was just keeping us in it, really. His work rate on the wing, that goal he got in the first term, his ball use was brilliant. He hit up some great targets inside 50, and I think Simpkin's been underrated this year, I've got to say. And I feel like every time we lose, even that Adelaide game, people are so quick to find a way to blame Jai Simpkin, and I think we really need to respect this guy more. He carried us for years in 2021, 2022. He stood up as captain. Not before his performance might have dropped when he was captain, but he's such an important person at this club, and he is putting together a really, really impressive season on the wing, and it was his best performance of the year, and I think he was best on ground for us. Huge game from Jai Simpkin. Next up, our other winger, Dylan Stephens. One of his quieter games, but I don't necessarily think he did anything bad. I think the ball was just more on Simpkin's wing, and that was fair enough because he was so strong all day. Finn O'Sullivan, previously mentioned, he had an enormous last term. He got 12 in the last term. He had 26 for the whole game. He was so impressive again. His work rate going back, but also his ability to, be offensively effective as well is crucial. And he didn't do a tagging role as such, but he went to Petrarca in the second half and really stopped him from dominating in the way he did in the first half. So again, awesome performance from Finn O'Sullivan. LDU, wowee, this guy he's showing who he really is this year. 30-1. It's starting to be normal, those kind of numbers from LDU. And after his late knock in the Adelaide game, to see that did not affect his performance at all was awesome to see. And his goal to level the score was a huge moment for him in his career, because that's getting goals and having that instinct, offensively is such an important thing he needs to add to his game, and he really showed up when it mattered. Next up, Harry Sheasel. Mr. Reliable is how I would describe this guy in our team. He's just such a crucial player for us, and I think he's enjoying the fact that LDU is probably our star in the midfield and our number one midfielder, because I think Sheasel can play that perfect Robin to LDU's Batman, and I think his time will come to be the star of this team, but I think he is embracing this role as our second midfielder, and he just does exactly what we need him to do every week. So very impressive from him again. George Wardlaw, previously mentioned, only 8 disposals in the first 3 quarters, but my God, he was so good in that fourth quarter. 13 touches, I think he got around two score involvements, 3 clearances, and that penetrating kick to Parker in the middle was just incredible. And yeah, he showed up when it mattered, and really, really impressive to see the growth of George. And he's definitely a fan favourite, and a player that we can't lose. And by the looks of it, he's about to sign a 2-year contract, which is amazing to hear, because do not want to see this guy anywhere else but at our club. And then the ruckman, Tristan Sherry, odd game for sure. That's how I would put it. Very odd performance at the centre bounces. Clearly is not doing well with the new ruck rule. He gives free kicks away for crossing the middle, and he's always staying down at the centre bounces. But around the ground, his rucking is still very impressive. He's so strong. But now that he can't wrestle in the centre bounces, he is struggling a bit, and I think this is something we'll need to address, I think. But he did his bit. And then Will Dawson, I'm not the biggest fan of playing this guy as the second ruck for a few reasons. I think, first of all, it's probably stunting his growth a little bit. That might be a bit harsh, but he's not a ruck. He's not a ruck. He's a defender. I know he's 200 centimetres, and that's a great height for a ruck, but Charlie Comben's 199 centimetres. We're never playing Charlie Comben in the ruck. Will Dawson is a defender, and I don't think we should play him as a second ruck. I think if we play a second ruck, play Taylor Goad, who had another good performance in the VFL. So I think Will Dawson's in a bit of a tricky spot. I'm glad he's getting AFL games, but I don't think as a second ruck should be how we give him these games. So yeah, he was a bit quiet, but I don't blame him. I don't think it's the right position for him. Now to the forward line, to start off with Charlie Spargo. Pretty average start, I'd say. Like in the first half, I think he struggled to impact like he did in the Adelaide game as well. But he lifted for sure. Got a crucial goal in the fourth. Started to apply some really good pressure. And when we get the ball in his hands, I do really like what he does, going forward. I think he's a good kick inside 50. But it's just about getting the ball is his thing. But when he can get into a game, he is an important player for us. And it's clear it's a player that we needed, and it's what we addressed in the trade period. I do still have some questions about him, whether or not he's the right fit. But I think for now he keeps his spot, and he did what he needed to do. Cooper Trembath, awesome to see this guy back in form. He'd only kicked 1 goal in his last 4, I think it was. But he popped up with 2 goals, and his move to being the ruck at centre bounces was crucial, because, wow, he has a leap on him. We've all seen it throughout the year. He doesn't always win the ruck contest, but he makes the other ruck have to put in their best effort. And I don't think Sherry does that every time at the centre bounce. So his work at centre bounces is crucial. I think going forward, he's going to be at a lot more centre bounces than possibly we initiated going into this season. So great game from him. Really, really happy to see him back in form. Zane Dersma, I mentioned him quite early, but he showed up in some really important moments in the final term. His goal and his goal assist for LDU were just so important to us, for winning that game. So yeah, fair play to Zane. He's really growing as a player. And then next up, Jacob Constanti. Very similar to Griffin Logue, a player I've been harsh on, but I do honestly think that was his best game for the club for multiple reasons. I think it was that first goal he got was the first time I've seen him really properly crumb a goal, like a classic small forward, like a Nick Watson, like a Cozzy Pickett, like a Cyril Rioli type crumb. Awesome to see, and he popped up with another goal in the second. But yeah, really impressed with JK, a player I've been extremely harsh on, to be honest, but I think that was his best game, and I really hope the fact that he was able to find those goals in that first half, I really hope that can give him the confidence to have more shots at goal, to get himself in the right positions, because that was an awesome performance from him. And then last off, the skipper, Nick Larkey. Not his best. He's clearly a bit sore with the knee injury from last year and not fully confident, but he showed his leadership when it mattered. I know I've said when it mattered a lot, but because that's what this game was. We showed up when it mattered late. Kicked 2 goals. Probably should have had 3, but scuffed one to Spargo, which he fortunately kicked. But it was better. It was a better performance from Larkey, but I think he's still looking a bit sore and not fully himself. Hopefully the bye is a perfect time for him to freshen up going into the Perth trip. Because to be honest, if we had a game next week, I'm not sure if I'd want him to necessarily play because he's looking proppy. But he kicked 2 very important goals and showed his leadership, not just with his on-field, not just with what he was doing, but to rally the boys. I think a comeback like that doesn't just happen by chance. It comes from the captain and the coach really bringing the boys together and giving them belief. And I think Clarko and Larkey did an exceptional job at making us believe that we could win that game, which we did. Still riding this absolute high from Saturday afternoon, and I think it's actually quite nice to have a bye this week because it's going to feel like we're winners for 2 weeks in a row, It's going to take a very long time to forget that win, if ever. Incredible moment for the club, incredible game. Really, really crucial part of the season to get that win. We broke a losing streak. We go into the bye with a win. Just amazing stuff. Thanks for listening, guys. Next episode is going to be a mid-season review. Obviously, with no game next week for the Kangas, no game to preview. So, going to have a special guest on next week for a mid-season review. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.